All right, the long weekend is over. It's Tuesday, May 27th. Summer, well, the actual summer doesn't start for another month, but it's summer right now. That's how I feel. Mike Giardi, Will Parkinson, the All 32 pod with you. As always, a reminder, we are a proud partner of the CLNS Media Network. So as we are still into OTAs, Patriots have OTA availability on Wednesday. I know the Jets are going again this week as well, and we'll have more updates on that at the end of the week. But for now, you guys liked our draft last week for Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're going to do a draft again this week for quarterback, receiver, running back combos, the best combos in the National Football League. And of course, Will, because I am generous, I will let you have the first pick.
I've gone back and forth on this one a lot because I think it's a little difficult when you there's usually most teams have two of the three that are elite or maybe all three that are just good. One I want to kind of shout out to start here. Again, this is maybe crazy, and maybe I'm way too high on the Raiders, but I'm gonna do.
I like this. No, this is a sneaky dark horse. I like it.
I'm gonna say one of, if not the better combos, just on paper, just going into the year. They're not one for me, but I want to start with them because I think they're the team that no one would have. Geno, I think he's comfortably a top half of the league quarterback, if not better. And I think we've seen him produce at a higher level than that. Again, not saying he's elite. I think Genty's going to be awesome right away. And I think Brock Bowers, whether you want to consider him a receiver, a tight end, it doesn't really matter. The dude's going to catch 120 passes for 1,200 yards this year. That on paper is about as fun. Not saying they're the best. I just wanted to start with the Raiders because I think they're going to be pretty good. And didn't want to just go Bengals right away or I wanted to kind of do something a little different to start. So I will say that one of, if not the better ones, they're probably of my list. They'd probably be five. Maybe I'll go the opposite way. But I want to give the Raiders a shout out because I think they're a team that you won't hear a lot of that, but that group, their skill group's pretty damn nice. Besh and Myers on the outside and Bowers, Maye didn't get moved. Maybe that still happens, but maybe he has a bigger role in this offense with Geno. And I just think Genty's going to be really good. I'll start with the Raiders there.
My first pick, there's so many good choices here, but I looked at what Baltimore did last year, and I know once again disappointing in the playoffs. But I just want to throw at you, Lamar Jackson didn't win the MVP, and I was okay with it. I thought Josh, when it mattered, Josh was awesome as well. But Lamar threw for 4,172 yards, 41 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, also rushed for 915 yards. So you give me that as a playmaker at my quarterback position, I'm pretty happy. Then add in, Derrick Henry, who seems to be ageless, 1,921 yards and 16 touchdowns. And while Zay Flowers is not on the high end of number one receivers, still finished with 1,000 yards last year. Yeah. He's still a good player, maybe not a great player. Yeah. So for me, there are a lot of different places I could go, but I just look at that combination and think, well, Derrick rushed for 1,900 yards again this year. Probably not, but I didn't think he'd rush for 1,900 yards last year. He is the fountain of youth is in that guy. He was working out 4 days after the season was over. That's how well he takes care of his body. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's 1,600 plus yards again and 15 touchdowns. So I'm going to go Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm going to take this next team. This team's one for me, and I'm not entirely sure it's that close. I think it's the Rams. I could have gone Stafford, Kyren, Devontae, and it probably would have been one. I could have gone Stafford, and at this point, Puka's probably a little better than Devontae. Just I think he's got a little more you can do a little bit more with him. But at the same time, like Devontae last year with washed Rodgers and a not great offensive line and switching still a 1,200 yard a year receiver, he can still dominate games. We saw Jacksonville is Jacksonville, but Devontae was the best player in the field, and it wasn't particularly close. The Rams, to me, I think, again, unless something weird happens, I'm probably going to pick them to win the Super Bowl, or at least represent the NFC. I think a lot of teams have maybe are down. The Rams, we saw last year, and it wasn't as good of a Rams team as I thought it was going to be. Still the only team that really pushed Philly all year, really, let alone in the playoffs. So the Rams, to me, while I want the Raiders or maybe a sneaky one, the Rams are quite obvious, and I think the fact that I'm not as high on Kyren as everybody, I think me and you both are just take care of the football.
Yeah.
A damn good back. And having two guys who arguably are top 10 receivers and a top 10 quarterback, it's really hard to argue with that, especially with McVay at the sticks.
Yeah, I mean that's the part of it too. Is McVay seems to press all the right buttons and have all the right answers. All right, if you're not going to take him, I'm going to take him. Cincinnati Bengals are my second pick. Again, absurdity in terms of what they produced last year. Joe Burrow almost 5,000 yards passing, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and with that defense as bad as it was, Burrow kept them in games week in, week out, and they were still sniffing a playoff spot there at the end. Because of him, like that defense just, and had they gotten in, I would have considered them to make a bit of a run because they're just that dangerous and he's just that cool. Jamar Chase, obviously with T. Higgins as his number 2, and Higgins obviously back this year after signing the extension. Chase gets paid in the offseason as well. He was a Triple Crown winner at wide receiver, 127, 1,708 yards and 17 TDs. I think the thing that we kind of forget about Chase is he's not the biggest, like, we'll probably get to Philadelphia. A.J. Brown is built like a freak. If you had some dreams about some sort of combination in Pittsburgh doing it, DK Metcalf, obviously we know what he's built like. Chase is smaller, 5'11", but there's such power to his game, the run after catch, even the 50-50 stuff, which probably he shouldn't be as good at his size. He is because of the physicality that he brings at the top of the route and going to get the football. And you know what? I sneaky like the running back. He's not a household name. He may never be. Chase Brown nearly rushed for 1,000 yards, also had 54 catches. I know some of that is a byproduct of Joe Burrow and the attention on the outside pieces. But I think he's a really good player. He's a nice player. Yeah. I'd be happy to have him on my team. And if he stays healthy, he would have easily eclipsed 1,000 yards in that offense. So I feel real good about my number 2 pick with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals.
I'm going to steal one that might be on your list. I'm going to go the Bucs. Again, this is a little Raiders-ish with, Baker and Geno, I think, are both guys that you don't love, but you certainly have they can get you to the playoffs. Like they're not, and maybe in the right situation, they could go on a bit of a run. Bucky Irving was awesome last year. You were all over that. I think you were the guy, you had him as breakout, he's going to be the breakout player of the year, and very well might have. And then Mike Evans and again, this is one of those situations where, like, I like the quarterback. I really like the skill talent. They put up big numbers week in, week out. Like, they could beat anybody. And again, we'll get to Philly, I'm sure, and even Washington, teams like that. Like, I get it. But I also feel like, I don't know, they're exciting, man. Like, again, I don't know what they really are week to week, because there is the off Baker game where he's just like, dude, take the sack, man. Just tuck it. There's the game where Mike Evans, he'll inevitably, he's going to have a 3-game hamstring injury. Unfortunately, that's what's kind of happened at this point. He'll still get 1,000 yards. Chris Godwin, I don't know what he's like and all that stuff, but like, I know Bucky Irving's really good, and I know Mike Evans is a 1,000-yard guy, and Baker puts up 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns every year. So it's hard to not. I want to make sure I mention them because while I think the Rams are the best, I think the Bucs can go toe to toe. Both teams have that any given week. They're well coached. They're just a solidly run. Like, they're going to show up professionally every week and they give themselves a shot.
Yeah, it's kind of funny now. It feels like Baker and that offense is offensive coordinator proof, right? Because they'll be on there
2 years in a row. He did it the second year.
And I don't worry about it at all. Canales did a great job with them, but Baker has clearly found his lane and his confidence. And they just, in general, I think they have a philosophy. Whoever the next guy they bring in, it's just like, no, the train is on the tracks, man. Just make sure you steer it properly.
I forgot he was the number 1 overall pick.
I know.
And was really good as a rookie. I feel like we kind of the Cleveland stuff got bad at the end, and I'm not whatever, but he wasn't like Zach Wilson bad. He started to be like, I don't even know.
They had Freddie Kitchens and Odell was there. There was all kinds of weird
Odell
stuff
sucked, and and all that stuff. My point being, like, he wasn't good. I am not. He was bad in Carolina. Like, I'm not getting any 2 bones about it. But I'm just saying, like, I think sometimes we're like, oh, this like upstart, like he's Brock Purdy. Like, he's the number 1 overall pick, man. He won the Heisman Trophy. Like, he wasn't he was a nobody 17 years ago when he was a freshman in college.
Well, just think about that Carolina situation for a minute. Both Mayfield and Darnold. And look, both of them have their flaws. We're not going to deny that. And it took Sam a while. Sam was awesome last year for
Yeah.
the better part of the year, right? And got himself a nice contract in the offseason. Baker got himself a nice contract after he went to Tampa, bet on himself, and then delivered in Tampa. So like there was talent there. That situation was pretty rotten. Not quite Cleveland rotten, but pretty rotten. They may have come out of it, at least in terms of getting the right head coach in Canales now, and they may be headed in a right direction if their owner doesn't screw it up. But to me, that just tells you sometimes the situation really does matter, and it mattered for both those guys. It was just like, what are we doing? By the way, Ben
It's crazy
McAdoo.
to look back that roster, right? I'm just looking at it right now.
Yeah.
I remembered it, but like Shaq Thompson obviously was in his prime. Not that he's the biggest name. I'm just, you go through it.
Player.
Like
He's a good player.
young Icky, DJ Moore at 25 years old, Frankie Louvu, JC Horn, Jeremy Chin, 24 years old, Derek Brown at 24, Christian McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard, Darnold, Baker, like
shouldn't have sucked. Yeah.
Team sucked. And then Steve Wilkes, obviously comes in for Rule, and they do a good job and the whole thing. And it's like they went 6-6 at the end, and it's like should probably run it back with one of those guys and Wilkes and like try to get more out of it. Instead, it was just like whatever. No, that's a story for another day. I remember like I'm just thinking about it now. It's like we think Bryce got better, and he maybe is going to be a good player. Damn, it would have been nice to have Darnold or Baker on like really reasonable deals and all this. I don't know, and maybe had those 3 first-round picks back.
Yeah, but yes, that would have made a difference to them. I guess I'm gonna push to see what happens here. I'm gonna jump on Houston here in this spot because I think CJ Stroud's gonna be better. Look, I know again. Their offensive line is one of the bigger questions coming into the league, how it comes together. They changed a lot of bodies, including trading their best guy in Laramie Tunsil. They brought in guys like Cam Robinson and Trent Brown, who like I have no confidence on either one of those players, but they clearly have a vision for what they're trying to do there, and they brought in a lot of bodies. But Stroud, I think, will be better than last year, where he clearly took a step back. They had obviously massive protection issues, and he was a little careless with the football, much more careless than he was the year before. But he still threw for 3,700 yards and 20 touchdowns. Joe Mixon's probably got at least one more good year left in him. Went over 1,000 last year. Also had 36 catches. The big driver for me is Stroud to Nico Collins, because I think Nico Collins is the top 5 receiver in the league. I think when he's healthy, I mean, he was the best receiver in the league for the first 4 weeks of the season before the hamstring came up. And then they did have some offensive problems, but he commands 2 people and he still catches the football. Last year, despite the injuries, over 1,000 yards, 68 catches, 7 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised if he's 100 for 1,400 and 14 touchdowns if he can stay healthy. So I'm betting on Nick Caley, find the new offensive coordinator, and D'Amico Ryan sort of figuring the things out up front a little bit, and then those guys and their talent rising to the occasion.
I like that pick a lot. I think some people would argue it's one, just because like, hey, if they're really high on Stroud and stuff like that. I'll go Philly here. I just like it's the obvious one, and I think Hurts is a fringe top 10 guy. Maybe I'm lower on him than everybody else, but A.J. Brown's a comfortable top 5 guy. Saquon's probably the best back, if not a top 2 or 3 back. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this one because it's kind of boring. But yeah, they're awesome. Like there's no question about it. Like you could go Devontae Smith and I'd still rank them quite high. Like you could put in a different quarter. You can put in Tanner McKee and I'd still rank them high because like they're just that good at the other spots. Yeah, I think them and the Rams and Houston are probably the teams that you're sitting there going, if I could pick any of these 3, like I'm picking probably those are like I don't know, maybe I'm missing someone that would be in that, but like comfortably, especially in LA, like they have top 10 guys at all 3 spots. I think the Eagles would say they have top 5 guys at all 3 spots, right? And so yeah, Philly's awesome. It's not exciting. They're going to be probably picked by everybody to repeat. Like I don't know. It's
Hurts, right? Hurts is the reason why they weren't the easy number 1 choice, because if we see the Hurts we saw in the playoffs, then I wouldn't hesitate. Bingo. That would have been the first pick. Let me roll with it because as you're right, Saquon's probably the best back in the league. Certainly had the best year last year, over 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, and AJ's awesome. And had his periods of moodiness there because Jalen Hurts couldn't get him the football. Hurts played 15 games last year, didn't throw for 3,000 yards, rushed for 630, 14 more touchdowns. But it's sort of, you should be a 38 to 4,000 yard passer with those pieces, right? With AJ, with Devonta Smith, with Barkley coming out of the backfield, Dallas Goedert, like that whole, just that, those numbers should be better. And he definitely went through a crisis there for a good period where I think when we went into the playoffs, remember, we were kind of like, I don't know that I trust Jalen Hurts in a big spot, but in a big spot, he definitely got it done. He was awesome. They were awesome. So yeah, I was hoping to slide them into this pick for me, but you took them and it makes sense. This is a toss up. I'm betting on some youth here to take the next step, and that's the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, I thought you were going to go Atlanta. I like Atlanta.
Trust me, because of Bijan and Drake, I definitely thought about it. Just haven't seen enough from Penix yet.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Jordan Love, I think we thought after the second half of 2 years ago that he was going to take the leap, got hurt early in the season, and then it was a little inconsistent. There were some things that happened there where you're like, is this who he's going to be? It was that 8 or 9 game stretch there at the end of the season 2 years ago. Was that just like the best he's ever going to be? And I'm betting that no, that wasn't the best he's ever going to be, and that he's healthy, and that he and LaFleur are on the same page. Still threw for 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns last year, dealing with the MCL sprain and some other stuff. Josh Jacobs is one of the reasons why I would push them into this mix, because he's a top 5 back, an absolute horse, a bull, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Love the way he runs. Love the physicality. Good out of the backfield as well. Like he's just, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for him, the way he plays football. And I love the way he was utilized in that offense. And I see that continuing to grow this year. The question is, who's the number one receiver, right? Because there's a bunch of young players that they've had moments. I still like Jaden Reed a lot.
The group is really good.
Yeah, as a group, it's a B+, A- group. But I think Jaden Reed, there's another level there. I think it's incumbent upon LaFleur and Love to make him go from the 55 catch, 900 yard guy he was last year to 75 and 80. I think that's the kind of player he is. And so to me, there were periods, especially early in the year, where you're like, oh, he's ascending. And then he disappears. You have a week where he has a week where there's one catch. That's a fine, by the way. That's a $5 fine in the pool. Where he had one catch and you're like, 2 targets. You're like, that can't happen. He's not Puka or AJ Brown or one of them, but he's a really good player who needs to get the ball more, and it's incumbent upon LaFleur and Jordan Love to feed him, because I think that'll make their offense better.
I'm going to give a couple shout outs before I do my last pick here, who I'm not picking, and maybe there's someone that you're going to be picking. I didn't pick Washington. I did not pick San Francisco, and I did not pick Dallas. And the Chargers. I wanted to highlight Dallas quickly. I don't know what their back situation is going to look like. I think they have potential to be a much better backfield than they were a year ago. Not much better, a better backfield. I just think we just don't talk enough about Dak and CeeDee Lamb as like they're going. Dak's a top 10 guy to me, and CeeDee's arguably like a top 2 or 3 guy. So I'm not going to pick them here, but I do think there's every bit of an argument to be made about Dallas, and I've made this argument before. I just don't know what they're going to be yet as a team. Like I said, I think maybe they win the division. Maybe they finish in 4th. You can make either argument. I just think they need to be like highlighted, because Dak almost won MVP and CeeDee Lamb almost hit a bunch of receiving records 12 months ago. And weirdly, we talk a lot about like Michael Parsons, and we don't talk about Dak and CeeDee as much as we probably should. I'm going to go Detroit. That's going to be my last pick.
It's a good one.
I don't love Goff, but I think he's a Pro Bowl level guy in the NFC. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a All-Pro. Jahmyr Gibbs is an All-Pro level back. And similar to what I said about a couple of these ones, like if you have 2 top 10 guys, and arguably and Jahmyr Gibbs is the best playmaker, arguably outside of Tyreek Hill in terms of like that home run, touches the ball, and it's must-watch TV. I feel like they have to be picked here. Like I like the Chargers backfield a lot, but I don't know what Hampton is yet. And Ladd had a really nice year, but is he a top 10 guy, or is he really is he a number 1, but is he really like a 1B and you'd love a 1A, like
he'd be perfect as a 2. Like just give me somebody in the outside with Herbert's arm and then him working underneath. That'd be glorious.
Even like Washington, like I like McLaurin a lot, and I think Jaden's awesome. Let's see about running back. I think I don't love the backfield. I think they're serviceable, right? And like Arizona, hey, Connor and Marv and these guys, like, sure, but am I sold on Tyler week in, week out? My point being, Detroit's an offense that was amazing last year. Those guys are all Pro Bowlers. Like, again, one of those ones because of Goff, you're a little hesitant to do it. But look at the NFC landscape, Mike. Like, who else in the NFC are you picking over Goff? Like 4 guys, 5? I mean, who am I missing? Like, Jaden, you're picking. Dak, like Stafford.
Right.
It's a conversation immediately.
Yeah, the big challenge for them this year is obviously, we mentioned it when we were talking about sort of futures, the turnover at coordinator, and Ben Johnson was so important, and the relationship between Ben and Jared. I mean, Ben pushed a lot of the right buttons over the last 2 years. And is that easily carry over to the new coordinator and Goff? Is it Goff's offense? And like, hey, this is what Jared likes to do. We've seen it work for the last 2 years, and I'm just plug and play as an offensive coordinator. That's the question I have. But it's a good pick because Gibbs is awesome. Amon-Ra catches a ton of passes. You could even convince me Laporta. Like, that type of capability.
Like, they could be the argument for the number 1 group.
Yeah.
Right. JMO is another playmaker, and Montgomery.
If he gets his head out of his ass.
That's probably suspension number 4 and coming here soon, I'm sure. Them wanting a 2nd round pick,
I know. Come on.
But no, I just think that they, like them, similar to a lot of these ones. I think you have to pick them.
Yep. I'm going to wrap up my 5th pick.
With the Patriots.
Not going to do it. There is some. Hey, look. You can make some arguments that they could work their way into the conversation later in the year. I'm taking the Bills, and again, Bills would be higher if not for the question I have as to who's the number 1 receiver, because I know who the number 1 receiver is, Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
It's the ceiling on that type of player. Last year, 76 catches, 821 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, number 1 receiver needs, not the catches part, but you need more touchdowns. You need more big plays. But he is the guy, clearly. Anytime they needed a play in the passing game, 3rd down, big spots, he was the guy that they went to. But the other 2 pieces are awesome. James Cook. Sorry, James.
Player.
You're not getting $15 million from the Bills, probably. That's not going to happen. I understand you asking for it. However, over 1,000 yards last year on limited touches, 16 touchdowns, real good out of the backfield.
And Ray Davis, too. Like, they have, like, really good depth. Ty Johnson's a good player. Like,
Ty Johnson's a really good player. Yep. And then, of course, it's Josh. And so 28 touchdown passes, 12 rushing touchdowns. Had a good year in terms of the turnovers, only 8 interceptions, some interception luck involved there. He gets the MVP. It's crazy. I picked them, and guess who's on the outside looking in, face pressed against the mirror, saying, "Hey, don't you remember me? It's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs." Yeah. I couldn't get there with the weaponry, right?
It's also the injuries, right, Mike? Like, do we know, like, Pacheco looked horrible post-leg, and I don't blame him, right? This guy was playing a warrior.
Yes,
like,
absolutely a warrior.
But Rashee Rice, I don't know what he's going to look like.
Right.
Your
best wide receiver is who? Like, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. I mean, Kelsey, like, he didn't elevate in the postseason. 2 years ago, he did. This year, he looked like he was older.
Or kind of wasn't really starting.
Yes. Yep. So I just couldn't get there. Patrick is the best still. I'm not taking that away from him. If you said, Mike, you're picking a franchise right now, age doesn't matter, I'd still take Mahomes. Yeah. However, I don't love the surrounding pieces, and I couldn't get there. I did want to shout out in terms of sort of on the outside looking in. I think you brought it up, Atlanta. Yeah. Because we haven't seen enough from Penix, but we love the way he threw the football coming out of college. We liked some of the things that we saw last year in a limited sample size. You combine that with Bijan Robinson, who's awesome, and I don't know, maybe Zach Robinson will get him an extra 40 touches this year. That would be nice, Zach. I'm just saying, he's that good. You probably should do that. And Drake London, who is not my favorite kind of receiver, but he's just been super productive for 3 straight years. 1,000-yard receivers, 70, 80 catches, can play the bully ball. Like, he's a damn good player. Just, that's not my profile, but like, I can totally get behind that if someone said, look, I'm betting on Penix to take the leap this year. And with the pieces that he has alongside Darnell Mooney, some of those other guys, like that offense could be really explosive.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, I want to point out two things real quick before we wrap. One, I think this shows you that, which everyone already knows, it's the greatest team game in the world. I picked one of those teams. We left off arguably the best team. We waited for a while to get to two of the teams that were in the title game last year. Like, I'm really happy the Raiders have a good group, but until they win games, it doesn't really matter. There was a tweet that I just want to get your gut reaction thoughts on. Jason, over the cap, just tweeted this: highest percentage of returning players on a roster, right? And lowest percentage. I'd like you to guess the top three: highest percentage of returners and lowest percentage. The hints I will give you is two of the teams you picked for highest percentage of returning, and I picked one. None of the teams we picked are in the lowest percentage of returning.
I'm gonna guess Baltimore.
Nope.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an interesting list.
Cincinnati.
I'll give you a hint. The number one team is Denver. 86% of the roster is back. Really high number. I mean, in the NFL, it's usually you can account for about 30% of turnover a year.
Sure.
Denver, 86%.
There's still some of that, the fallout from the Russell deal, right? They still have dead money on there. So it's like, we can't totally do probably what they wanted to. But then again, they had a good year last year.
Yeah. 84.5% Green Bay, 84.2% Buffalo. So very much the same rosters. The teams with the least percent of returning players, the Jets only returning 42%. Makes sense. Coach fire, GM fire, bringing your own guys. The Titans, 59% are not returning, so only returning 41. They're only returning 59%. Number three surprised me. Minnesota, 40%, 41% roster turnover. I wasn't expecting that. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Was they're a team that 14 wins last year. I know they change over at quarterback, but Mike, I don't think I was like. It's an interesting mix to turn over 41% of your roster when you won 14 games the year prior. So that's why I wanted to point that one out.
That was including. Was that including like practice squad guys and the roster guys?
Not practice squad.
Because I'm looking right now. Free agency tracker for Minnesota. So I'm trying to think of who brought in Rondale Moore, Jeff Okudah. I guess Gilmore is still out there, right? They haven't signed him. Who left? Justin School. Harrison Smith is back. This list is terrible, by the way. That's Javon Hargrave. So they did. I do remember now that. They did the interior. They signed Ryan Kelly, right? Will Fries.
This is an interesting one. I didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Minnesota.
Added Jonathan Allen, Byron
Lions.
Murphy.
A lot of the really good teams brought people back. Shocker. Broncos, Packers, Bills, Lions, Bengals, Bucks, Cowboys, Rams, Commanders. Number 9 was interesting. The Giants brought back 77% of the roster. That's another one of just, they're paying a lot of guys. They've made a lot of moves. They've gone all in. Yep. But I just wanted to bring that up as we were finishing up here because I think it's always interesting to see who says, let's roll, and who's like, get everyone out of this building immediately.
Well, you know what's funny about it? I'll love to see the numbers when we get into September and when we get to the actual. Yeah, this is the solidification of the 53 because, as you've heard me mention it, listeners have heard me, viewers have heard me mention this over and over again. I would have thought the Patriots were on that list because they have made so many. But you know what it is? It's the back end and the extra guys, the practice squad guys. There's a lot of same faces. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty of the 53 in September, it's going to be close to 50% turnover from the year before because I've mentioned it. 11 draft picks. I think 10 are a lock to make the team. The only guy who's not a lock is 7th-round pick Kobe Minor, who, again, could. We'll see. We haven't seen him really have to do anything just yet. And then they brought in 14 pro free agents. And if you look at that list, 12 or 13 of those guys are pretty much shoo-ins to make the team again, pending health and whatnot. And then, of course, you had the undrafted free agents as well. So I want to see his tweet rather, at the end of training camp when we get to that thing, because I think the Patriots will probably be damn near close to 50%. All right, that's going to put a wrap on the program. For those listening to the show, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other good Patriots and Elite content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. He is Will Parkinson. I am Mike Giardi. We'll be back at the end of the week, post some OTAs. As I said, Patriots on Wednesday, I will be there, and we will have observations for you on Thursday or Friday, whenever we decide. Usually we're Thursdays, whenever we decide to post. So thank you for being with us, and we will see you soon.